this video. Welcome to the spread, episode 3. We are back again to chat some esports, and I'm here with my friends Aussie and Toos. So you guys remember Aussie from last week, and Toos is new to the spread, but not new to Jam. He's been around Jam for a number of years now. My right hand man. So I guess we'll say hi to Aussie first, and then we'll say hello to Toos after that. How you going, Aussie?
Hello. All right, yourself?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. Everyone remember Aussie, the Counter-Strike manager of Ground Zero, and also does some other duties over there. Anything else you got on your plate at the moment?
Not really. Pretty quiet now, actually.
Ah,
Good.
it's
Finally kick back and relax.
total opposite for me. I'm busy AF. What's up, Brayden? How you going, man?
Hey dudes, how we all going?
Very good. So for those of you that don't know, Toos is the Chief Operating Officer of Jam. I've known Toos for probably over 2 years now. Um,
Yep.
And yeah, he's been helping out with Jam ever since we first met and worked his way up through the organization, and now he's behind the scenes every day doing great work for us. He knows a lot about esports and about the business of esports, so very happy to have him as a part of the organization and also as a part of this show.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Making me blush.
If only you had a webcam, we could see that.
Yeah, no, that's bush living for you, stuck on the old 4G.
Yeah, we'll get you one day. So we'll jump right in. Guys, we've got a command in chat, !topics, and you can see what we're going to talk about. Welcome to everyone in chat. Hey Napa, hey Laxon, Stubbs, my man, long time no see. Team XESC, hello. So yeah, not a huge week, but still some pretty important news that came out. So we'll work through the Twitch stuff first, like we always do, then jump into the esports later. If you guys got any questions in chat, make sure, and you want us to see them, make sure to at the Jam account on Twitch so that I can see it in red and try and get to it. If we don't get to it, stick around to the end and ask it again. Or you can jump on our Discord and chat with us there. It's discord.gg/jam. So yeah, we'll jump right in. And the first topic that I want to talk about is a new sponsor jumping into the gaming esports scene in Australia, which is Burger Love. So
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
yeah, definitely big and not endemic. I'm going to bring up the tweet so that everyone can get a bit of context. There we go. So yeah, Burger Love is a chain of burger restaurants. They got their main ones in Melbourne, South Melbourne, and this was put together by Chris Smith, who's a very prominent member of the esports community. And yeah, their first dabble into esports marketing was with Couch Warriors, who's a fighting game community organization. They run tournaments and do a lot of stuff for the fighting game community. So they held an event in one of their stores, which was a competition basically. A lot of
Yeah, they
people.
had a pretty big turnout there. I think it was 60 competitors and about 100 plus people.
Yeah, so it was packed. There was some photos which I think might be in this link. I'm
It's
hoping.
all on their Instagram, I think.
Oh, here we go. There's some here. This is from the post. So, um, yeah, so massive giant burger here. How do you even eat that? With like,
Yeah,
it's like a
I'd have a
kebab.
crack.
Yeah.
Trust me, that sort of stuff's way too hard.
Yeah, but amazing. Really happy that it went well because whenever there's a new sponsor jumping in and it's just their first time, we always want it to just go really well so that they do more. It shows other new people that yes, this is really popping off. You want to get in, and it just snowballs from there. So, um, great job
Yeah.
to Chris from Big and to Daniel from Couch Warriors and all the people that turned up. Um, Looked like it was a pretty sick event.
I'll be honest, it's I don't know, to me personally, a burger sponsorship sort of like if you were to look at a burger store or a restaurant that is sort of in that fast food area, to me, I feel they've done the right region in esports in the FGC.
Why's
If you
that?
get what I mean, it feels
Galactic
very
Burgers?
no, not that, but it feels very not a, I guess, for example, a large scale sponsor, like for example, you're looking at like a technology sponsor or a store sponsor. You're very much looking at, in my opinion, a sort of structured look, like you're expecting teams to be in a more professional environment. Unlike in the FGC, it's very much, a lot of the events are still what looks like your average LAN without the main stage. You get me? And to me, the the restaurant chain itself, if they're hosting more FGC events in their own stores, it feels very tight knit, which I guess is how the FGC community already is.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's a perfect
Yeah.
fit. Yeah, FGC is very community
Yeah.
based, and um, like everyone rallies around events, and like just the way that the events are run, like everyone has to take like this massive amount of gear, and for like this wasn't for Smash, but for Smash they've got to like take the old CRT TVs to the events, and everyone
Yeah.
like there's a huge community vibe, and yeah, it's great for like a um, similar vibe for that for Burger Love, the venue. So yeah, I think they were happy with it. Hopefully we see more.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
hit the
definitely
nail
good.
on the head with that one because regardless, street fighting community has been around. Well, the fighting game community has been around for ages, and they're still basically, living in the '90s with how they run their LANs and tournaments. So regardless, they knew that they were going to get a turnout, which worked out well for Burger Love.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
And the
especially
FG
if they're able to go like into more like if Burger Love's able to put in that extra effort to help support the older scene. As you said, like they have their limitations of having to use the old TVs, the old equipment, um, and they're not fun to carry around. I can tell you that as big TVs, but yeah, it's definitely good, definitely good.
yeah, and I know that they're already looking at new events to host in their stores. So yeah, that's good to see. We'll have to wait and see what the next one is all about.
Hmm.
So let's move along. Another pretty big thing that happened this week was the Apex challenge from Twitch. Um, so it was ANZ streamers got involved. A lot of live streamers. They got into teams and did an event. I think it was like 75,000 the prize pool or something like that. Was it maybe 40?
$75,000. That sounds right.
I could be completely off the mark here. Maybe someone in chat will know.
It was a
I
lot of
think it was
money.
40.
Was it
40? Right.
40,000?
Yeah.
I think 70 was NA.
Here we go. So we've got
Something
Katie,
about
Toby.
75 in Apex comes in line, but yeah.
A lot of big
Yeah, there was a
big Aussie
lot
streamers
of big
here.
names.
Oasis, Troden, Spud Hunter, Chinglish, P for Potato. Like, a lot of really well-known, strong players here. Got into teams. So yeah, it's a good event. Obviously, it's good to see more Apex happening.
It'll be interesting to see how they run this, considering that Apex doesn't have custom servers or anything
Well, it's
like
already
that.
happened.
So
It happened
yeah, so
last
this already
night.
happened.
Oh, did it?
So how it worked out basically was you have a point counter, and every team has to play. You just keep playing games, I think, constantly for 2 hours. I think it's
Right.
2 or 3 hours. And every win you get 10 points, and then every kill your squad gets is another point.
Right, so it's basically the way that the scrim community is trying to run at the moment.
Basically, yeah. And I'm pretty happy with how it has gone. Is like the game is early off release. Still a new game. I think it's only been 4 or 5 weeks since Apex came out.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've already working with these partnerships with Twitch and including this region into it, I believe they did their North America and Europe Twitch rivals the first or second week the game came out.
Yep.
So the fact that they've actually gone out of the way to include this region, to me personally, is huge. It's definitely
Yeah, see, this to me still has more like a Fortnite sort of vibe to it. They're sort of trying to run off the backbone of what Epic Games have done.
Yeah,
And in terms of the longevity of this game, it's not going to work because I guess the visual stimulation isn't there like it is in Fortnite in terms of content wise. So if this game is to last, they sort of need to get behind the competitive scene more so the streamer scene if they want this game to actually last and
well, that's
survive
exactly what
some
they do.
time.
That's why this event was Twitch partners only.
well, they got a lot of like strong competitive players in this that were also streamers, but not massive streamers.
It was mostly a show match. Basically, if you are a Twitch partner in ANZ, you had a contact who would be talking to you through your partnership. So, e.g., those who would have been partnered through organisations most likely didn't get contacted. But in saying that, usually they do have a rule of this that you can't be a pro player playing. But that's iffy if you want to look over the scores. But man,
Yeah, I mean, for me, anytime, like you said, Aussie, anytime that they include our region in stuff like this, it's always good, and especially when it was such a massive prize pool.
exactly, a prize
Yeah.
pool including our region. So they're actually putting in the effort to include us. And that's where if you want to compare the Epic Games, hello, it took them
Yeah,
7
it took
seasons.
them ages to, to add OCE. So yeah, Apex coming out and doing it quickly, even if it's just for streamers, I think it's a good sign. So we'll just have to see what happens.
It's the beginning, you know.
Yeah, they've got a lot to
And
go.
then if you want to add on to it, right? So this is an actual partnered event with Respawn / EA through Twitch to create this challenge. If you really want to cut down to the beginning of it, the first private competitive that happened in ANZ was through Double Jump Comms.
Yeah.
Even then, it wasn't their server; it was Nvidia's.
Yeah.
So, if we really want to compare, I think Apex have done incredible work here. I think they've done an amazing beginning to start off what can be a very healthy relationship with this region and their game to have a competitive future. Comparing it to H1Z1 and PUBG, where the devs just sort of kicked it, they kept kicking it and killing it themselves. I think they're really smart. They've got a good marketing team behind it. And
Yeah.
my experience
100%.
with EA through Battlefield, they know what they're doing. They know when to give up when the sheep's dead. Really, they know what they're doing. They have lots of experience in it.
Oh, I don't doubt that, but they're still going to be looking for the money first. The next 3 months is really going to determine whether this game survives or not, because there's already angst amongst the competitive scene on if there's going to be custom server access, replays for demos. Like, there's no real sort of options for these players to grind and get better like traditional games with CS or even League, for example, has replays. So. Yeah, definitely in the next 3 months, it'll be interesting to see if they keep following suit with just doing more spectator sport sort of things like through Twitch and all that type of stuff, or whether they're actually going to get custom servers out and provide avenues for players to get better and make this game a proper spectator sport.
I'm sure they will. It's just probably a matter of timing and manpower.
Definitely.
It must be hard running a game like that where you've got so much to look after, and you got to look after the casuals, you got to look after the pros, and it's a very fine balance. Speaking of balance, you got to balance the game. You got to try and push forward esports and do all this other
It
stuff.
wouldn't help with EA on their back.
Yeah.
100 wouldn't help with EA on their back. Like I can talk positively about EA when it comes to their esports, but from their game development, as we've all seen with Titanfall 2, another game made by the same devs.
Yeah, EA definitely all about the bottom
EA
line as well. So they'll be everything's about profitability, which as a dev can sometimes be a hindrance. Alright, so let's move on. The last thing from the Twitch world and the content world this week was this cryptic message that came out from a number of influencers. What is shade? Aussie, do you know what shade is? Anyone in chat?
I don't know actually.
Did you see this?
Was it on Monday or
Yeah,
Tuesday?
it was. Yeah, number of different influencers posted like a
Mm.
cryptic "What is shade" message, and Shane Warne posted it. Um, so a couple of other like traditional influencers, and then we got a bit more information from the big podcast this week, because the man that they had on the podcast is James Bryce Lind, um, and the first thing he said was about shade. So we know what it is now, and I'm gonna just run through exactly what he says, so you hear it from the horse's mouth, um, and yeah, and then we can talk about it a bit. So I'm just gonna
Welcome to gaming. Still bet.
skip to where
I
it
saw
is.
A little bit of an idea, I guess, before you open up there.
it's a play in the gaming influencer space
Here we go.
where we've aggregated a handful of traditional influencers, mixed it with gaming creators, and created this hybrid concept similar to that like 100 Thieves or FaZe Clan, but more geared towards mainstream media, where we believe the gaming industry is heading.
So that's it from the horse's mouth there. So it's from what we can gather, kind of similar to the Click Crew, but also involving traditional influences from the mainstream, which is why Shane Warne's involved. What do you guys think about that?
Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Everyone does. And
I mean, it wasn't surprising that something like this was bound to happen once Click Crew happened, which is obviously through NRG. So a lot of influence there, and then just through the raw numbers that they're generating through YouTube alone, it's kind of a no-brainer for those sort of people to put their money together and make something like this happen. Long term, now it's going to come down to what actual content creators are they going to get on board with this, and how are they going to push their content? Is it going to be similar to Click Crew, where they have like their in-house challenges, or pretty much it's all going to come down to the sort of content they produce to whether it's successful or not.
Yeah, I'm curious. Obviously they need a much larger budget to get mainstream influencers. So you'd assume from that they'd be getting much larger sponsors. And then yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of.
It's a big gamble, really.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to
it
be
is.
getting these traditional influencers to play games, and are they going to be like
Vice versa challenges,
Yeah.
esports athletes playing traditional and then traditional athletes playing esports games.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
guess so, like the best of both worlds.
mm.
Kind of like just combining both audiences, I guess. Doing it
I
that
don't
way.
know. Has Shane Warne still got his cricket game that gets released on PlayStation or whatever?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that.
Either way, he's had a couple of games come out in his name before esports was sort of a thing in OCE. Just around cricket and all that sort of stuff when he was, the world's best fucking spin bowler. So
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like there's still a lot more to come out information-wise about this.
yeah, exactly. I'm interested. I'm very interested to
Yeah,
see, the concept that they're going to go with and how they're going to implement all of this.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like there's some smart people behind it, so I'm sure they know what they're doing, and it's just a matter of executing everything and then getting the community on board. Because with this kind of stuff, if you can't like authentically get the community on your side and everyone doesn't take it seriously, then it's never going to take off in the gaming space anyway. I think gamers in general are a lot more skeptical about advertisements and sponsorships, and they're very cautious about people like selling out. So, and that can definitely work against you.
Well, there's a lot of aspects that can work against him here. I mean, you look at all the traditional, sporting athletes that are getting involved on this, like Shane Warne. He's been, the man of controversy for so many years. Coming into this, you just got to look at when the Essendon League team went to watch an Essendon football game and how much shit that they were copping off just the commentators,
Exactly, and
There's
that was
backlash from both sides.
It was quite disgusting, and at least to me, it was quite disgusting, and it
Oh, it was absolutely shocking. It was woeful.
incredibly, and it's sort of doesn't matter how much you try to mix the scenes, there will always be some sort of negligence. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Ignorance, you mean?
Ignorance.
Yeah,
Sorry,
ignorance.
that's
That's the one.
it. There will always be some sort of ignorance to stopping it. And it's been like that with humans in general, like since basically forever. And I hate to use the example of when like America was going through, or I guess the whole world was sort of going through at the time of when there used to be two different buses, depending on what colored skin you were. Like that's taking it to an extreme example, but that's sort of what we are in when it comes to comparing esports to regular sports. There are people that treat it on the same level of these are so different they shouldn't be alike.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, I think the whole calling it esports is like half of the argument. If it was just called
Exactly.
something else, I don't think there'd be that big of a deal from like the traditional space. But because people have called it esports for so long, and then it's like you're always trying to justify why it's a sport. I don't even care. Like I don't care if it's a sport or if it's not a sport. I don't think it's relevant at all. But the mainstream media like latches onto that so much, and that's just their argument. Well, I don't think it's a sport, you know, like who cares? It's
It's
not.
because they're becoming irrelevant. I mean, you look at back when the television was first getting released, and everybody who was a part of radio was kicking up a stink because television was the new hip thing, you know? It's no different. It's just people are afraid of change, and they're afraid of the inevitable. You know, what they once knew is no longer common in today's society. You know, things are developing, things are changing, and people are afraid of what's going to happen.
And there's like a massive generational gap between like the internet age is I think widened the generational gap, because if you weren't growing up in time of the internet, it's just something totally foreign to you, you know, where you'd struggle to even send an email. But if you were
Yeah.
like us and you grew up online, that's just normal life, you know, that's part of our daily life. And like the difference between those two generations is so big. Whereas like previously it might just be like, well, maybe the music's a little different, or maybe like everyone still did the same thing. Like, you know, your dad played baseball or soccer or whatever, and you did that too. But now it's like, well, my dad played footy and I'm on the computer. It's like totally different. So that, you know, creates a lot of animosity, I think. But yeah, like you said, Braden, it's just changing times. And the smart people are like realizing it and educating themselves, and that's something that the esports community has to get on board with as well. It's not um, like it shouldn't be an argument. It shouldn't be disrespectful. It should just be more centered around educating people. And if you're talking with someone on Twitter or in your family about it, and they just can't see your viewpoint, well, that's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion. Um, but you should just approach it from like an education standpoint, I think, and talk to people about, well, like the best teams in the world have nutritionists and psychologists and physiotherapists, and you know we can sell out stadiums, and it's very similar to, you know, other sports like in that regard. And I think once people like are educated that, oh wow, that's actually what it's like, and maybe you take them along. Like I'm always excited when IEM Sydney comes around, because I'm excited to take new people and show them the best esports event in Australia. And I think once they see it in person, they're like, wow, this is incredible. And like the more people that you educate, the better it is for everyone.
Yeah, word of mouth spreads. It's all about the experience that people can get. It's not much of an experience that somebody's not a part of this world can get from, you know, looking at a monitor. You know, it's like I can just go watch TV, or I can put up Netflix or whatever. It's more so when they rock up to that stage and they see, you know, holy shit, you know, these kids are actually playing for what? How much money? You know what I mean? That's the number one thing that I always face. It's like they're making how much money? People can't believe people are making money off just vlogging their daily life on YouTube, or doing reviews, or doing this or doing that. If you can whack an ad on it, you're going to make money. Same goes with mobile phone apps. You know, you look at that. There was a game there a while ago where a kid made something like 1.2 or $2 million within the first month just of ad revenue. You know, so the generation of ads is definitely evolving, and that's where the stink is being kicked up by traditional media because they're now becoming irrelevant. You know.
Yeah, they're just not adapting fast enough, and it's this ads are a very interesting topic because our generation has been conditioned to ignore, like completely ignore ads, like whether it's on TV or whether it's like in the car or on a website, you never look at the bad ads, like you never click on stuff. Could be a virus. Like I think in my whole life I've maybe clicked on like one ad that I thought was, oh my god, that's really interesting, I'm going to click on it. But considering that I've probably seen millions of ads, that's a terrible click-through rate.
Mm.
So like in general, advertisers need to be adapting, and the smart ones are. Like I just saw on Twitch, there's a lot of new ads that are coming up pre-roll. We can talk about Twitch, obviously have their issues with ads probably popping up too much and in the wrong places. But when the ads do come up, I think the marketers that make those ads are usually pretty smart about it, and they're engaging, and they might have an influencer in there that you follow. Like I've seen Dr. Disrespect on a couple of Twitch ads, which is
Yeah, the Call of Duty ads.
yeah, that one's the
Yeah.
one I'm
Yeah.
referring to. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like it makes me stop and watch it, whereas normally in everyday life I would never stop for an ad. So
And that's and back with the ad thing, that's all sponsors are. That's all organizations are. Is that we're an ad space for them. We've captivated an audience, and they're utilizing us to basically run ads for them. As much as people don't want to see it in that light, that's all it is. If you can put an ad on it, and if you're making money off, people just seeing that and then going, oh, if this person uses that, I'm going to go use that because that person uses it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Word of mouth is still there. It's just developed on a whole new level where it's my favorite person uses this, I'm going to use this,
And you can tell when they're being authentic about it, and you can tell when they're just kind of forced to do it.
Yeah.
And that.
I mean, I think PewDiePie is the best example there. With all of the ads that, you look at his YouTube channel from where it started to where it is now, and how he developed in terms of how he runs ads and what he does. His ads are always left at the very end of the video, in terms of minor things that are just giving him a bit of money to whack something up. But
He does some pretty clever, like in video, quick.
Yeah, because he memes it. He just
clips. He memes it.
Everything is just a meme. He's just everything's just made to be sarcastic.
But that's clever.
It's ridiculous.
Right?
Exactly.
That's on brand, and everyone knows that it's an ad, but that's the meme. So it's like a perfect way of incorporating it authentically.
Yeah. I mean, he's developed himself into literally doing nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, who doesn't sit on their phone looking at Facebook memes or doing this or doing that? Except now we're watching someone else watch memes. Like he's making millions of dollars watching memes. Like people watching him watch memes, which makes it that much funnier and that much more ironic, and how brainless, where he's at now, because he's captivated that audience. Everyone just loves him because of who he is and the fights that he's had against, traditional media empire.
Yeah, I mean, very, very interesting stuff. I think we should move on. We could talk about this for days.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, definitely something that I think we'll revisit a lot on this podcast, because it's something that's very important to the growth of esports. So we'll no doubt come back to that topic in the future. So the next thing, is we're on to the esports side of the news now. So Rocket League was pretty prominent this week, but before we talk about Rocket League, we should talk about the first Rainbow Six announcement for the AEL University League. So the AEL, if you don't know, it's a university league which you have to be at a uni enrolled, and then you make a team, I think, and then they have certain games, and it was just announced that Rainbow Six is one of the games for this split, $6,000 prize pool, pretty decent.
This actually surprised me because AEL's normally been more league focused, haven't they?
I think
done CS:GO
they've done a
every
couple
year.
of different games. They had Rocket League as well, because I remember one of our Rocket League players
I think last year
playing it.
or
Yeah.
the year before.
But they didn't really advertise that one, did they? Because I didn't like when I heard about it, which was from one of our players at the time. It was, oh, they're doing something. Like, where do I watch this? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But yeah, new games. Rainbow Six is, surprisingly starting to make its way up the ranks within our region.
Rainbow Six is a pretty strong game, but it's
It's too boring for me, in my opinion. It's way too boring. Everything's just so slow, and then it's all of a sudden so fast, and it's just, in my opinion, it's not a spectator sport. It's more competitive. The thrive to want to be good at a certain game because of the mechanics that are involved.
I mean, everyone has different opinions about different games, so
Definitely.
but from what I tried to learn a bit about Rainbow Six back when like Shroud was learning it, because I
Yep.
never really got into it before that, and then I watched Shroud, so he started playing it, and I was like, well, trying to find out about Rainbow Six, and from what I was told from the community, it it has quite a steep learning curve. Like you have to know all the operators and what they do, and like different strategies for different maps and entry points and all this stuff, and different angles. So it seems like that at the top level, you really have to know a lot about the game to really enjoy it, which is hard for someone like me who it's hard to get into unless you've really invested into the scene, I think. Maybe.
Very hard to get into the game as a casual.
Yeah.
That's really, in my opinion, the best way to explain it, really. It is a very, very technical game down track.
There you go.
I personally, I don't really enjoy playing it. Other people do. I'm a CS guy. But yeah, it's like, how many operators are there in it?
There's like over 10, I think.
Over 10.
Yeah, I think I invested a total of 20 minutes into the game, and I was like, yeah, nah, no thanks. Next.
I remember seeing just a screen of icons of different characters you can buy, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. But
I'll stick to.
obviously everyone has their own everyone has their own opinion. As I said, with spectator sports, I think personally it's really good. Expanding the university scene is, I guess, it's more of a taking notes from college sports over in the US. As you know, I've been told a lot of the time that some of your your college football games sometimes even have more actual revenue in them than compared to your main, is it NFL?
Yeah, and then
that's because they don't pay the players.
Yeah.
True.
I'm just memeing. That could be wrong.
But yeah, so I don't know. I believe AEL's vision is correct. I do like what they're doing, how they're incorporating universities. It's a bit different. Yes, you won't be getting traditional teams who play. But I guess that's just how it goes when you're in esports, It's not like you're restricted. Usually, it's not like you're restricted to one region. Like, when I say region, I'd say like city.
Yeah.
Well, see, I love everything to do with educational esports, and I think what they need to do is market it more. If you're seeing more universities, they're coming out with their own, high performance centers and their own PCs and this and that. Like, schools and unis are starting to adapt and seeing this as a more positive way for the school to bring in revenue for itself. Now, for people that are competing in this, like the actual players within the university leagues, if they want to make something of this, AEL has the perfect opportunity, to market the absolute shit out of it, make this an absolute massive spectator sport, and it could work out just like GFIN or any other league in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, you could have home and away games with different unis and do it kind of like Unisport, but Unisport really isn't that big in Australia.
It's not.
Not yet.
It's just going to be like a little gimmick, I think, for the uni. But you know what QUT did up in Queensland when they actually built their esports center up there, and they have a course now that they've started on esports management, I think. So that's like definitely something
I'd love to know who's running that.
The guys, I forget their names, but they're pretty active in the esports.
In the Oceanic Business page, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them post quite a lot on the Oceanic Business Facebook page, and I've seen them at some conferences. So they definitely did their research. I'm not sure if I think they actually might have moved on from that position, but I think the uni is pretty invested in moving forward, and hopefully like if that's good for them, because obviously unis want to attract more students. That's how they make
Oh,
money.
definitely.
So if that's something that gives them an edge, like they're the only uni in Australia that offers an actual esports course and has an esports center, and if something you're interested in that, you'd be attracted to that. So,
Actually,
is that true?
Isn't the Bombers doing something with a uni here in Melbourne? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I read something a while ago that was either Bombers or another club has done something with another uni here locally in Victoria. I'll have to find it, but
Are there any
yeah, I'm
others,
pretty
Ozzy?
sure.
well, the uni you're talking about, CQ, they're the second one in Brisbane. QUT was the first, and they're very central based. Like you got the heart of Brisbane, and they're the next block over. Their performance center is the esports room. It's quite small, but they've got pretty top of the line computers.
Yeah.
There is definitely a competition there between the universities. It always sort of has been. If you look through like their sport, like the regular sports head to head, their education arts degrees, they've always sort of been head to head against each other. The two unis, as they are pretty sure the two biggest in Brisbane. It will be interesting to see what comes out of it. I don't know. It's to me, esports isn't an industry where you can't. There's no handbook to it. You know, this industry
everyone's learning as we go.
Every year, it is still changing every year, and yeah, like having that fancy bit of paper saying you've done this course, saying that you know how to work in esports, but I guess it comes down to all of it. It doesn't matter if you have the paper or not. How's your experience? You know, I don't know. I think, in my opinion, I think they've jumped the gun with their esports center.
Yeah, it's a lot to invest in for such a shy potential, because the end goal here that a lot of students are going to be looking at as well is that, sure, I can go do this esports course, but what do I get out of the end of it? Like, have you guys got jobs that are lined up for me? Or
from memory, you have to do it combined with another course.
Right.
So it's more of like an elective, or
it's like an elective,
yeah.
But it has to be an elective towards some sort of business management. So,
I mean,
it's like a business management course, but you major in esports or something like that. Yeah,
basically.
Interesting. Yep. Okay. Well, yeah, it was good to chat about the university stuff, and I guess we'll keep our eye on it and see what happens with that. So let's move on to the next piece of news, which was the Clubs Queensland is looking to host some esports events. This was posted by the 7 News Brisbane page. So Clubs Queensland, I assume, is kind of like the those Rotary clubs or whatever, where they're like bars and they're in separate towns and they're all connected. Like, are they all owned by one company? I guess Clubs Queensland is the company.
I think it's more like a franchise business, but they all run off the same model.
Because we have something similar in New South Wales. Like they're called clubs, I think.
Well, see, we have the RSL here in Victoria, which is more around honouring, veterans, army veterans and stuff like that.
Clubs is more, I want to say union, but not really at the same time. Guess you could say they're a union for the clubs. They're sort of there to help protect and make sure different clubs don't go underwater, you know? Like they do everything from pubs to RSLs to surf life-saving clubs. And obviously they're looking at doing some sort of investment into a Queensland-based esports club, aren't they?
I was just watching a bit of this video. I'm just gonna skip through it and watch the whole
It
thing.
takes
Yeah, so
accuracy,
they're
fast
basically
reactions, and being
a legal
alert to
team for
be
these sort
a
of
gamer.
representative, which is like
You
your
have to
Lions
train
Club,
every day.
Esport
Rotaries
is
and
worth
stuff like that.
35 billion.
So basically
There's the
non-for-profit.
streaming, there's the sponsorship.
That's small
I
at
believe
your
so.
local club.
Yeah, because they cover life-saving clubs and memorial clubs. So
Here you go. Let's listen to what this guy has to say. Hang on.
Community clubs, no different. A tournament throughout Queensland in community clubs, no different than football matches.
If it takes off, they
Right. So they're looking to run a tournament system within the clubs. Yeah. Not a new concept at all. Just a new venue, pretty much. So it'll, like for that kind of thing, obviously to run a tournament, it takes a lot of experience, so they're going to need to make sure they employ the right people. If it's just, you know, new people that they employ that have never done an esports tournament, it's probably definitely going to fail. You know, you need all the right equipment, you need good internet, you need admins, you need like so much more. And if the event isn't run smoothly, you know, the players aren't going to go again, and it's just going to be like a big flop. Yeah, so good luck
Yeah,
to
that's
them.
how it always sort of ends up, you know. It's a real flip of the coin. Either they do it fantastically or it's a major screw up, you know.
it's basically just going to come down to how they run the event itself. It's poorly
Events
run.
is so hard.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for people that run events. It's just there's so much stuff that can go wrong and so much planning involved.
Yeah.
The prize being
With the
meat
prize be a meat platter. Oh, that's a good one. Thanks to Monkey Boy. Very funny. Yeah, so, you know, obviously anytime someone new gets in and it's more mainstream, we all hope that they do well and they're successful, and esports is great for them. So I just hope that they've done their research and they're talking to the right people and they can make it happen. So let's keep talking about stuff. We're on to the Rocket League news. And quite a lot of Rocket League related stuff happened this week. So we'll talk about this one first, which is Meta, the Highschool Esports League program. We talked about them a bit last week. Run in collaboration with Legacy. Yeah, so they've brought Rocket League onto their system, which is really great.
It's good, yeah. They're opening the age range into who can participate in these events.
Yeah, we've said this before. Rocket League's a really great entry into esports, and it's
in my opinion, it should be the entry into esports. It's the one title, in my opinion, out of all the popular games right now, that is the best to relate your casual, well, I guess a casual audience to a more dedicated audience, from people that don't care about a PS4 controller to then creating your next generation of gamers.
Yeah, and Rocket League is much more safe for a school environment than, say, Counter-Strike.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, for the casuals, the people at school that maybe play like games on their phone, I think it's an easy transition to just try out Rocket League on a controller rather than going to like a PC, because like PC gaming is you know, a whole other level.
Well, the thing I love about this is that the Highschool Esports have already shown that, you know, that they provide good avenues for these kids to sort of explore and see if it's for them. I mean, they were at MEO last year, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant what they did. And it's basically just going to throw that thrive and that passion out there more for kids, you know, who want to get into
That's
esports.
right. I forgot about that. So they did like a final at MEO, didn't they?
Yeah, and that was with Overwatch, I believe.
Was it Overwatch? It was on like a side stage.
Yeah, I think it was Overwatch.
Well,
I'm not 100% sure, but either way, they did something at MEO, and it was absolutely awesome. And the fact that they're bringing Rocket League in as well, and they put this on the main stage, you know, people are going to be respectful because they're going to know how old these kids are. So it's going to be a positive environment for them, you know, at all times. And in the long run, it's going to boost our scene so much more.
Yeah, and that's
exactly.
that's
And then
sick.
you
And I
got to
think-
look at some of the best. I think I actually said it last week how well some of the how young some of the best Rocket League players are, and the example is Delusion, who I'm pretty sure we'll talk about later on in this, I guess, general Rocket League topic. But he's in his last year of high school now. Like he's young.
Yeah.
He's been
Young gun.
playing in. He's been playing in Gfinity. He's played for the global in the qualifiers to take out what's the global
RLCS.
tournament for RLCS? Yep. And obviously he's been on salary. He's been under Legacy, one of the biggest orgs in Australia. That's now with the Adelaide Crows. It is the title to give esports a positive name.
Yeah, definitely. And I think teachers will love it. Parents will love it. Going back onto what Tu said about being at MEO and being on a big stage, it's like traditional media will love that too. If they can bring out a news story that there's high school kids that have played this esports tournament and now they're playing at Margaret Court Arena, that's insane. Like that's great. So, yeah. Let's move on from that. We can talk about more Rocket League stuff. Is Chris wearing Jam merch? Yes, you damn right I am. Look at this. I'm wearing the old school merch. Not available anymore. Okay, so the next topic is still around Rocket League. And now we're getting into the juicy stuff. So it was announced that Order is leaving Rocket League. Very interesting announcement, this one. Considering that they were in still are in Gfinity.
Are they still in GFin?
As far as I know, yes.
Yes, they are.
Well, they're not on the. I haven't seen any real posts come out on the Gfinity Twitter about it, like them being in anything.
Well, I think Gfinity took over the qualifiers for RLCS away from the Throwdown. So now Gfinity is looking after the actual RLCS qualifiers as well as the Gfinity League.
It starts next week, doesn't it?
I don't know. You tell me, man.
I
GZ's
think it's
in Gfin.
I also work for Gfin.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's next week or the week after.
Is it season 3 now, or is it season 2?
Season 3.
It'll be season 3 of the Elite Series. But that's completely separate to the Rocket League stuff in general. Obviously, what I say, I don't really know the ins and outs of what their business decisions are, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Gfinity is taking away Rocket League from the Elite Series. I can tell you that.
Wow. Well, that's curious. So
it is curious, but then, in my opinion, when you're looking at this shuffle that's happened in Rocket League over, it's been about 3 months since the shuffle began, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving going on.
There's been lots of moving around, and obviously there hasn't been much to prove. Chiefs are still number 1. They've only had the Gauntlet, I think, is the current tournament that's going on right now. And Chiefs are dominating in that. I think they haven't lost a series. I guess that's Chiefs fashion in RL. And you've also, I don't know, this roster shuffle has made it feel very lackluster in Rocket League, and I don't blame Order.
No, I don't blame Order. It's just curious if they're still in Gfinity and they still have to front a Rocket League team for Gfinity, then why not just keep a team and just, because they're going to have to eventually get Rocket League players for Gfinity.
I mean, saving them a lot of money. Definitely saving them a lot of money. As we know, those players would have been on proper salary. If we compare it to the rumored salaries of what Chiefs wanted when they were first picked up, if Order were paying that, then I'm not surprised that they dropped the lineup. There's not enough competition in ANZ, in my opinion, to make paying that sort of part-time salary for a Rocket League team worth it.
I agree, but I also highly doubt that that's what happened. I think that they definitely would have been salary just for Gfinity, whether they were salaried for the off season, maybe like the top teams are, but I'm not
Maybe,
sure.
no.
Like that seems like a pretty poor business decision, but I
And
don't
in
know,
fact,
maybe.
Gfinity does help pay salaries during Gfinity season.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's public knowledge as much as it should be, but yeah, Gfinity do help pay off the salaries during the Elite Series.
I guess we can talk about Leopard Print's question now. How many esports teams are on a salary? Well, it's surprisingly a lot more than it used to be. There's well, the first ones were League of Legends, so every tier 1 team in League of Legends who's in the OPL, the highest league in Australia, they're all on salary. Then, Counter-Strike teams, the top Counter-Strike teams are also on salary. Rocket League, there's some Rainbow Six teams are on salary. What else? Fortnite players are on salary. Some
Somehow.
PUBG teams are on salary. Now, like, you can define salary. It's obviously you can't, like, no one's making 100k a year in Australia playing esports, but it's most players would be living comfortably enough to where they can make that their full-time job while they're studying. Yeah, which is, I guess, the aim at the moment. And as the industry grows, you'll see salaries grow with it. That's my opinion on it. Yeah, so this announcement definitely, I think, was very interesting to me. And like, just the general health of Rocket League doesn't help.
It's in a ditch at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, I've been saying this privately to the guys in jam management for a while now, that Rocket League, like, Psyonix has shit the bed so much with this game. They had a big opportunity 2 years ago when it was like number 3, before the Battle Royales really kicked off. They had the opportunity then to focus on esports more, put in-game items in the game, provide orgs and teams with revenue opportunities, which would increase the salary and attract new players and
help support players to be able to go to international events. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. And Rocket League, also Psyonix, are not the only dev that are avoiding this, The not supporting teams that are playing their games as much as they really should be.
Yeah, so I think we should probably move on from this topic. There's Rocket League in general. It's a really good game. We're all big fans of it. It's just at some point with esports, you're handicapped and handcuffed by the developer, and if they're not willing to step up and like really push it, then it's always going to stagnate, and that's what's happening with Rocket League right now. They've said for like over 6 months, like, it's coming. The items are coming, the growth will come with that, but it hasn't.
Yeah, that's a load of shit, to be honest.
It hasn't come, and this is what's happening. Like, great orgs drop the game completely. In NA and EU, we're seeing great teams that are orgless, because big orgs like in NA can't see a reason to pay massive salaries because there's no revenue opportunities from the developer. So it's there's a lot to think about these days when you make a new game, and if you want to have esports as a part of your marketing strategy, you need to cooperate with orgs and with players. Otherwise, you're not going to get the same reciprocation back that you thought you might. So
yeah, and hands down, the devs are responsible for their own game, and they've just left it, up to other people to sort of keep it chugging along. It's like you said, 2 years ago, they had their chance to stamp their name and make it something everyone will remember, but instead they let that opportunity slip, and they decided to focus on other things.
And the next Rocket League related news is we've seen an Asian org pick up an Australian team, which is pretty amazing. So we went from one like org dropping a team completely to a completely new org from a new continent getting involved with the same. So it's 1NE Esports with a capital S. Gotta fix that, boys and girls. But yeah, always good to see some love from from some international orgs picking up Aussie players. So obviously, I don't really know anything about the particulars of the deal or anything, but we can only assume that it's good, it's positive, and fingers crossed nothing bad happens, because occasionally when some international orgs try and stick their fingers down here, we've seen players get screwed. So I can think of a couple of examples from the past. There was an American org that picked up a couple of teams probably 2 years ago, and I can't even remember their name. That's like how far out of my mind that they are. The other one is Mocket, who did they? Oh, they didn't pick up. Oh, did they pick
No,
up?
they bought out Pale Horse.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
then eventually just ditched all the teams.
Yeah, I think that
pretty
was
much.
a pretty sour one. I'm trying to think of it.
Like management, everyone got screwed over in that, because originally they were going to be running their tournaments through Pale Horse, and they were doing pretty good there for a while. But then all of a sudden they just shut up shop. I'm pretty sure the Lucky, who was the owner at the time, he did some pretty shady shit and ended up getting caught. So they had to do a massive restructure internally with Mocket itself.
Right. I
Right.
do remember that actually. That was very popular in the H1Z1 team scene at the time. Pale Horse had one of the best AU H1 teams, and Mocket had one of the EU's best H1 teams. And that ended up, any drama that came out of Mocket came out very publicly, very quick. But yeah, and then a couple other names I can remember. Nuovo.
Nuovo, that's the one I was thinking about earlier.
So investor Alex Gonzalez. He's
the biggest stooge known to man.
I mean,
doesn't have a good reputation. He
doesn't. He killed himself, definitely.
Yeah.
He killed any opportunity of wanting to invest in AU, and then you look at him now, like, where did he go after Nuovo? He helped buy into the remaining of Orbit, which was then bought into Red Reserve, and look at that. Dead.
Yeah, dead, yeah. So
everything he touches dies.
Well,
Really.
yeah, what I hated about that was when they first announced that they were supporting teams in Australia, they had this huge spiel about how they were like the saviors of the region. I think that was one of the words that they actually used, or they were coming into
I do remember that.
They were really like holier than thou attitude. Like they knew everything. They knew how to fix everything. They were gonna make OCE great, blah blah blah. And obviously that's very appealing to players. And I think they picked up a number of pretty good teams. But it didn't last 6 months.
So basically, the era of the esports consultant started.
Yeah, but he also he actually had money behind him. And don't get me wrong, he was paying salary.
Yeah, I think they were trying for a while.
He definitely supported the CS team he picked up. I can't remember what their name was prior. But they had the likes of Iron.
I think from memory, he didn't end up paying his Rocket League team at the time.
Yeah, I know that there definitely were players that did not get paid from that org, and also
definitely didn't. Like I know he didn't pay the last couple months.
Yeah, they left a very sour taste on the FGC scene as well, in Australia. Yeah, so yeah, it's just I don't really want to harp on it too much, but back to the topic of these boys from 1NE Esports. Hoping that it's not one of these and that they have a great time at the org, and it's a long
they're looked after.
Yeah, hopefully they're looked after because they deserve it.
Eh?
And we'll be supporting them, of course. Right, so the last and on that topic, let's just before I finish up talking about 1NE Esports, this is a message from the owner that I found on Reddit. Or owner or manager, I'm not sure, but it's Bonekus on Reddit. This is the thread about the acquisition. It was, to our best understanding, one org is not allowed multiple teams to compete in RLCS, but because Asia is not an RLCS region, they can pick up this OCE team, blah blah blah. We are excited to have this roster sign up and representing 1NE. So that was in reply to a question that was basically, how can you guys have two Rocket League teams? Isn't that against the rules? But because Psyonix doesn't see Asia as a region, that they're allowed to pick up this Aussie team.
I
Anyway.
thought this season of RLCS, Asia and South America were both being given a slot.
In the comments it says down here, I'm not sure, so maybe someone in the chat knows, but it says...
I'm not the biggest follower of RLCS.
I know that there's talks of Asia being added soon.
Well, Sam got a spot, didn't they? Because they had a massive announcement,
Yes.
like a video announcement on their Twitter. I know Sam definitely got a spot.
Yeah,
I think they only got the one spot.
Yeah, you're right. I think South America has a spot now, but Asia is like next in line.
Not Asia. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was 2 more regions that got added in total, with a team each, and OS kept 2 spots for itself still.
Which is huge. And don't get me wrong, we've always we have applied the talent. Yes, our first couple appearances at RLCS.
Well, see, I'm actually surprised that they've allowed us to keep that second spot. Like, even though coming up to the next one, I reckon the 2 teams that are most likely to get through will perform good. Like, one team we know will perform good regardless. But our second team that has always gone over has always, sort of been kicked out straight away without any results or anything like that.
Cough, Jam, cough.
so when there was talks of new regions getting added and all that sort of stuff, in my mind I was fairly certain that they were going to take a spot away from us to give to someone else.
Yeah, that's always sort of the vibe.
But no, it's good that they allowed us to keep those 2 spots, because I reckon it's only onwards and upwards. It's just the scene itself in our region needs a hell of a lot more development before we start producing more than 2 good teams.
Well, we need local development, but we also need international development, and that's what I really love about the CS:GO majors. How no matter what, even though everyone complains there's so much talent in EU has the best teams, has the best players, they should be given more slots instead of just 2. It comes down to 4 regions, and every region is given 2 slots. And they did change up in the last CS:GO major, where they made a 3rd place qualifier and only 2 teams come through. That's a little bit different. But when you're comparing the fact that, and we are very much alike, we share a lot of the same attributes with the Asian scene. We are very much excluded a lot of the time from the international tournament, not getting international experience. And if they were to take away that slot from Oceania, all it will do is harm this region. Like, Chiefs lineup proved that they can perform against online or overseas talent, and the more that happens, the more likely we are to get more prac, and the more we can actually perform overseas and become an equal competitor.
Oh, definitely. But I think the thing that changed, the difference between us and Asia that got us those spots in RLCS, for example, was that there was a lot of local community events going on. It wasn't run by specific large orgs or any tournament organizers like Cybergame or anything like that. It was actually Joe Blow, who's got $50 in his wallet, go and say, let's run a tournament. Let's go. Let's get this going. And then once salary sort of got introduced, that's when players got an ego and then stopped playing those lower level tournaments because they were better than that. So it sort of restricts how the whole scene can thrive when, people just think that they're too above, certain things to sort of involve themselves, because that's basically what killed the scene. Is people just got an ego and just stopped competing in things that didn't have a large enough prize pool for them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of just a natural progression, in my opinion. I think that what needs to happen then, because that's always going to happen if you're a player and you get a salary, and it's not really worth your time to play a $50 tournament if you can just go and practice against the best teams. But what needs to happen is there needs to be more developing teams coming through to play those smaller tournaments, the guys that are just starting out at the lower level. And maybe that's not happening in Rocket League. Maybe there's not enough teams down there at the tier 2 level to take advantage of those tier 2 tournaments. And also maybe there's just not enough interest in the tournaments to keep funding those. If they've already got higher tier tournaments that are above them as well, you got to think about those guys that are maybe casters and putting up $50 to try and get noticed. But if there's already other casters that are already casting for ESL, they're already being sent overseas and casting for RLCS, and well, why are you going to kind of focus on Rocket League when you can just go to a new game? And maybe that's happening as well. Maybe there's just not enough support in general for the tier 2 to be able to keep that thriving, from, you know, tournaments, from casters, from players. And then when that happens, that's when that part of the scene dies, and then you don't have that those new players coming through to challenge the top teams, and eventually it stagnates. So, and that's where something like Meta Esports, the high school league, can come in and fill that gap, because they have a lot of backing and have a clear goal of education and tying it in with schools where they can generate new talent from high school, rather than just focusing on the guys that are playing, you know, in their spare time, that can be a part of like the school curriculum. Yeah, do it like with your teachers and stuff, so it's more, you know, you can generate more interest that way for the grassroots. So yeah, another positive for them.
It'll also come down to how they market Meta as well, and if they can gain that viewer attraction to sort of keep those people pouring the money in wherever it's coming from. You know,
Yeah,
not everyone
maybe.
has endless pockets, so
It's true
yeah.
that, like, I think that Meta honestly don't care. I think that because they're owned by the Crows, they want that positive PR more than they want revenue from this, in my opinion. I think I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I think that esports is like a part of their long-term strategy, and like I'm talking decades. So they want to have that pathway from all the way from school up to their professional teams, and they want that established over decades, so that you know that if you are a kid in year 7 and you love esports, that the league that you want to play in is Meta, and then you know that from there, like the team that you look up to is Legacy, because they are, you know, connected with Meta, for example. So that's, I think, the kind of pathway that they're trying to develop. And so if they lose money now, I don't think they care. I think that it'll still run. They've got partnerships with Riot. They've hooked up with Rocket League here. They've got a lot of schools that they're working with. I think that they'll be funding. I don't think that that's ever gonna dry up.
True.
Yeah, that's my.
I mean, I'm sure they'll have a lot of government funding too.
Yeah, that's true. Like that'll also flow through the school system. So talking about Legacy, the last piece of news, Legacy and Mogul have joined up. So we talked about Mogul last week, which is the tournament model platform, which is established overseas and is now branching out into Australia and New Zealand, running small tournaments online, like frequent tournaments. I guess they're running nightly.
Which is quite interesting because it's a fully automated website. Like,
yeah,
not like CG where admins have to confirm scores or anything like that. It's as soon as you win, you've got money in your wallet on Mogul, and then you can withdraw that to your PayPal, and then however you want to go about it. But yeah, I'm very interested in this because I'm very curious as to how it's sort of planned, and you know how each other are benefiting from this. Like, is it just a big PR thing for Mogul, or?
Well, yeah, I think the thing is that Mogul and Legacy are both connected to Razer, and
Yeah.
that, I think, is the driving force behind this. So it's in this announcement something about the laptops that we saw in a tweet last week are being
Yeah.
used for a prize with Fortnite. So this tournament is, it looks like the player, any random player from home can connect to Mogul and work their way up to eventually play against the pros, so they can play against Legacy's Fortnite team,
Right.
win some Razer laptops worth like $3,000, so pretty decent prize. That's the premise of this particular partnership. So yeah, it looks like, and it does say in this announcement that they see mutual benefits here. Not only because they're both sponsored by Razer, they want to keep Razer happy, but you know, cross promotion, and Mogul want a pathway, they want pros to partner with, and legacies an easy
Yeah,
easy
provide
option for them.
incentive for players to sign up and want to play, compete,
And
all that other good stuff.
On the legacy side, I'm not too sure what they get out of this relationship with Mogul, apart from just keeping Razor happy, which could be good enough. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it, but we can speculate.
It's probably just a sweetener. Keep them on board.
Something I was honestly thinking about, this is more going off this topic, but more legacy itself with Razor. I don't know if anyone else has sort of noticed it as well, but it feels like legacy don't... obviously, every org is run differently, but it feels like they don't do much endemic advertising or pushing to support their sponsors. At least in my opinion, it doesn't seem like it. And then they've also, how long ago did they sign their Samsung sponsorship?
Yeah, but you got to think there as well. They've got, their own esports performance center and all that sort of stuff, and tying in, they do a lot of face-to-face stuff at events too. So
yeah, I think it's heavily tied to their league team, and if you don't follow the league scene, you're not going to see it as much. Yeah, I think that's like Braden too said. It's all revolving around the high performance.
And then my second thing was Samsung, because technically Razer and Samsung are now competition
because of the phone market.
Yeah, I mean,
the phone market.
Well, I think the Samsung.
You can look at it at two aspects there, because I mean, you look at any sort of generic tournament, everybody can get in that, looking after certain areas, so they could have Razer looking after all their gear, and then Samsung looking after them on monitors or phones or whatever it might be. But in hindsight, I think a lot of those connections just come down to, who knows who trusts who, and who thinks is going to produce the best results. And Michael, he's a very smart man, and
very smart.
A lot of people are going to take, want to work with him just because of the insights that he has just from meeting him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, who knows? It'd be interesting to see what pans out and who does what in the expanding markets of technology. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll just come down to, we will look after this area, they'll look after that area. Let's make it work.
Can you even get a Razer phone in Australia yet?
I don't think so. I think it's a bit the same as the new Google phone that's coming out. Our technology in Australia just can't handle it. I think once 5G becomes available, that'll be a different story. But we're pretty limited in what's going to happen here until 5G becomes a thing.
And then even then, we'll have to see how clogged the network is.
Oh, it'll be fully clogged on an initial start, because they're only looking to do the main capital cities, which they've already started rolling out, mind you. So, who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But until they get the infrastructure set up, we're fully limited and basically screwed.
Rightio. Okay, well that's the news pretty much finished. So, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about that maybe isn't news related or just general esports or org related, and then we can open up some questions to the chat.
Did we want to talk about Riot and this Rift Rivals stuff?
Yeah, it's true. I forgot about that actually.
Sure. So what's the announcement?
So basically, Riot has pulled Rift Rivals from Southeast Asia, Japan, Oceania, Brazil, Latin America, Vietnam, and the Commonwealth of Independent States, and Turkey. Basically, the viewership isn't there for them to keep putting all this money into it. Their pockets are running dry. Plain and simple. I mean, you look at the OPL now in Australia as itself, last year I don't think they were even hitting 700 concurrent viewers, and even now they're only borderlining 2,000 for what's meant to be a massive league. It was pretty poor viewership. And that came down to, how they sort of marketed themselves, because it wasn't until sort of end of last year that we seen any sort of social statuses or anything like that coming out from them.
So
Yeah,
let's just say that
marketing really
I'm
shot
not
themselves in the foot.
yeah, I'm not too up to speed with the league industry, like the league scene. So if I don't know what Rift Rivals exactly entails, and any viewers out there that might not know, can you one of you guys explain it to me? What is Rift Rivals?
Sure. So basically, Rift Rivals, I guess, in layman's terms, is teams mix up and create a team of different players from each team, and they go up against each other. So they create, a team within a team, in a sense, which is then meant to sort of spark up a rivalry, like within our own traditional sports, like AFL. How Carlton and Richmond have had this massive rivalry. Same with Collingwood, for years. That's the sort of engagement that they're trying to get. Obviously, not the violence and all that type of side of things, but people getting, sparked up, revved up, and chanting and all that sort of stuff, like they're seeing in the EU.
Yeah.
It's just not happening here. And on top of that, what we're seeing on the online audience is that the viewership is just not there. Through all the sponsors and everything, like I think they had Hungry Jack's was their major sponsor. The viewership was just not there. And the return that people like Hungry Jack's seen was minuscule compared to what they put in. So they ended up losing their sponsors, and Riot just basically turned around and said, well, we're not wasting any more money. So OPL is pretty much the last hope for League to sort of survive in our region.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't have much to say. What about you, Ozzy?
Yeah,
Any opinions there?
Same here. Not much to say apart from it was gonna happen.
Well, I don't think League is going to go anywhere in OCE.
I don't think League will go anywhere. I just don't think it's going to go anywhere positively either.
Well, yeah, it's just the cycle of esports. Like, I think that if you can't really expect one game to just be around forever.
That's exactly it, and
you got to adapt.
I said it a while ago. So obviously in GC we actually dropped our relations with Riot and League, and we chose not to continue our OCS slot last season. And my quotes back then, and I still stick by it today. If any of the three, if you have three major titles in AU, and let's jumble and bounce between PUBG, Rainbow Six Siege, and Rocket League sharing number three. So let's say top five. The first the next esport that I think is definitely going to drop in popularity, in my opinion, will be League.
Oh, it's already there. And it's been there for a while. It's been in the biggest slump of its life since the T1 days, you know what I mean? When it was actually a global, massive spectator sport, where Melbourne was having these massive viewing parties, or Perth or Adelaide. All these places were having thousands and hundreds of people show up just to watch and chant their favourite, international team go up against one another.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, one of the people that me and Chris know, which is Jason, he hosts a lot of these league viewing or spectating parties and stuff like that. And he even says himself, it's just dying off slowly. Like, I think he said he only had like 20 people show up to the last one compared to the following years where it's been, hundreds and hundreds of people rocking up to watch this. So, yeah, I don't know what they've done. I don't know if it's just come down to their marketing's just shithouse. But yeah,
I mean,
it's not good.
I'm not sure if you've seen it personally myself in a lot of my social circles. Like, when I was going through my education, I knew a lot of people that played League because League was, at that time, the biggest free-to-play game.
Yeah, like played it with your roommates or your uni mates. That was the thing. Whereas now Battle Royale's come out. On top of that, newer games, are coming out. CS is still predominantly out there because they've got ESL backing them. So they're always going to be around because ESL does amazing things when it comes to the marketing and getting their events out there. And sure, they've had a few stuff ups along the way, like with signing with purely just being on Facebook and stuff like that. but in
Mm.
hindsight, they've always marketed their events well, which is what Riot doesn't do.
Yeah, well, the best thing that Riot did do originally was the fact that they did have a free-to-play game. They proved to the
Yeah,
market
they were the
that
first one.
that strategy worked, and
That was
well,
revolutionary, really, when you think
it
back.
really was.
No one
and
did it
now
before
they've
them.
got real competition.
Yeah, and that's when
Because
everyone come out
those
with their
free-to-play,
crates and keys and
Fortnite, Apex.
Yeah. I
You know,
remember, I think it was like a YouTube or some kind of documentary with Mark Merrill, is that the founder? Anyway, saying that he literally went to like over 100 VCs with the idea of that game, try to convince them that a free-to-play game with shiny skins, mostly sold to teenage men, was going to be a popular idea. And eventually found someone to back them, and it just exploded. So yeah, when you think back, like that was the moment when esports really took off, was because of that one decision to go free to play, and also to put a lot of money into esports, which they knew they were going to lose that money. Yeah, so, but yeah, a lot can change, and it, I used to watch the league a lot. I used to watch it, every week. I'd stay up till like 4 a.m. watching the NA leagues and the European leagues, and I haven't watched a game of League in over a year, probably longer
I've
than
never
that.
been able to watch it. Can't watch MOBAs.
But like I
Get
said
motion
earlier,
sickness.
like everyone has different opinions, and the league is still obviously going very strong. In general, I think it's still the biggest esport in the world. But our region is so unique, and how to grow our region, you can't really rely on any one game, and things can change so quickly, and we've seen that with the introduction of Apex and with the introduction of Fortnite when that first came out, is that if the game is good and it takes off and it gets popular, it can change the entire landscape in a week or a month. So like that's how fast that this industry can move, and if you're not, as a game developer, constantly thinking of new ideas and even developing new titles, or bring out new content or whatever you have to do to stay ahead of the curve, then you're going to be the one left behind. And yeah, and because OC is such a small market, I just don't think that developers even really think about us at all, usually. So when they do focus on us, whether it's tournaments or whether it's bring out like a Twitch rivals, it's exciting because it's, we are probably less than 10% of their player base, but they're still putting some time towards us as a region. So that's great to see. But the opposite side to that is that we have to be self-sustaining, and we have to, amongst our industry in this country, realize that we got to think outside the box. We've got to do things differently here. And while we can look to the bigger regions for inspiration, what works over there might not work here. Whether that's audience, whether that's sponsorships, whether that's different game titles. Yeah, so I think
it's just two different ecosystems, really.
It really is, and the smartest people in this region are the ones that constantly thinking outside the box and trying to stay ahead of the curve, and those are the guys that will be, pushing this industry for the next decades.
Yeah, and definitely our region, Oceania itself, is definitely still in early development. Early development, yes, it does sort of make us, I guess, a few steps back compared to NA and EU. But then you also get and I'm going to directly use the example of a lot of players who expect the same support, who expect the same coverage as from an Oceanic org or an Oceanic TO as they would from, if they went to NA for an ESL event. It's a very imbalanced ecosystem we currently have, and I think that's where it has started to definitely fall, where out of balance, we're not supporting what needs to be supported, and while we're trying to develop, we're not developing anything that's structurally sound.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different angles that everyone's taking, and some of them work, some of them don't. So, but you just got to keep pushing forward. All right. I guess we can open up chat questions. What's up, chat? Anyone got anything they want to ask us about esports or Aussie? If you guys weren't here earlier, Aussie's works for Ground Zero. Has a lot of experience in Counter Strike. Choose and I obviously work for Jam and have a lot of experience in esports in general. So, anyone got any bangers to ask us? Go ahead. If not, we'll be finishing a little early today and looking at the news for next week. I see a lot of Fortnite players in the chat, so hopefully you guys did well in the tournament tonight. I hear our boy Volks came third, I think it was, he said. Good on you, bro. Nice to see you got your account back. Maybe we should get the Fortnite boys on here one week. Well, I think they're going to be pretty busy, so it might not happen, guys, but we'll see. How about I do a special and we'll do like a Fortnite vlog from New York when we get there.
Beautiful. How many slots is there for Oceanic players?
11? Well, yeah, I think it's 11. It's something like one solo. So they alternate for the World Cup qualifiers, solos and duos every week. So it's you got to finish first on that week to make it. And we're assuming that, let's say you're a solo and you finish first, and then the next week you finish first in the duos, they'll just send someone else, maybe. Or like the opposite way around, like if you finish first in duos and you also finish first in solos, they'll send the guy who came second in solos, we're assuming. So it should be around 11 players from OCE. Not bad, really.
No, not bad at all, especially when it's the developer supporting it, you know?
Yeah, a lot of money. Everyone who goes makes 50k US for tax. Decent amount, you know. That's more than any other esport that I can think of. From OCE.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder if, because it was a while ago they announced the World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that the beginning of
wasn't that long
last
ago,
year?
you know. I think it was.
They did like teasers and a big build up towards it, like the initial announcement.
They announced ages ago that they'd have $100 million for the esports events this year, but they didn't announce the World Cup until maybe like 3 months ago, I want to say.
Okay, so I'm just sort of mixing that.
Yeah. All right, Price. Any opinions and ideas on how Epic is pushing esports in OC just because of the amount of money they're putting in? Do you guys want to go first? Then I'll go next if anyone has any opinions on that.
I mean, my opinion is they're just throwing up big money and expecting people to watch because of the amount of money that's up for grabs. But on top of that, it's like everyone calls it. It's the 9-year-old army, and they all love Fortnite. I mean, it's engaging. Like, it's visually engaging. You know what I mean? Either way, Fortnite's going to be a success, and it's going to come from who they have as, you know, the respected TOs in certain regions on what they do in developing the scene itself, depending on the resources they're given to do it. But in hindsight, you know, it's all positive, really.
What do you think, Ozzy? Because you obviously spent a lot of time working with CS teams that grind really hard to go and then play in qualifiers for like nowhere near this kind of money. So how do you feel about it?
It's very hard to really word it to how I want to say it, but I don't think it's a... firstly, obviously, we won't know until it's all done. And that's why I just want to make my starting quote here. In my opinion, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at something. If you don't make it right, it's not going to work, you know? What was the quote? If you build it, they come.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to look at it, but then you look at Dota 2.
There is so much money and there's no players. And no Oceania for it. And that's exactly where the quote of, if you build it, they come. There's nothing built for O's. There's money. But what's the point of money if there's no infrastructure?
I know, yeah, that's true. And I have a really good point to make on that, is that I I think the long-term success of Fortnite in particular in OCE is going to come down to how the orgs reinvest any money that they might make off it, whether it's from sponsorships or from cuts of winnings or anything, because um, money is coming into it, and most of that money is just going to leave, um, through players, and it's not going to be reinvested, and that's where we can see growth. It's reinvestment into the players, into infrastructure, more high performance centers, more boot camps overseas, more opportunities for players. So let's just say, for example, you're an org and your player comes top 10 at New York, makes $1 million. Let's say you have like a small cut and you might make like 20 grand or something, just hypothetically. If you just take that money and then just leave the scene, that's not helping the players in the future to make more events. It's not helping your org to grow and to, provide opportunities to, other games that you might have. So what, in my opinion, you should do is invest that into your players to give them more opportunities to go overseas and get better so that they grow their own brand, they grow your brand, they grow the scene in general from more exposure from overseas. So let's just, some massive player is doing really well in the World Cup, makes a big name for himself. We want our region to benefit from that. And that takes support. One player isn't going to put the entire scene on his back, literally. He needs support from his org and from the community. So like, that's why even if none of our players make it, I'm still going to be 100% behind everyone that's over there that's wearing the Australian or New Zealand flag, because whenever they do well, we do well, regardless of which org they're in or who they are, as long as they're not
and
toxic.
that's definitely how the OS community is,
Yeah, I think mostly it is, yeah, and that's one thing that's really great about
Yeah.
our region. Everyone usually backs each other when they're going
When
overseas.
someone finally does go overseas, when
I mean,
finally
you
is
just
given that opportunity, we do support them.
exactly, and you look at Counter Strike, Rocket League, the viewing parties that come from that. I remember when the Jam was in RLCS, and even the last one just gone. I'm sitting up until 5, 7 o'clock in the morning watching this, hanging off the edge of my seat, screaming at my monitor, acting like an ape, because I'm just engaged, and everyone else that's in chat, we just get hyped, and you feel like you're a part of it, and you're there.
And
So
that's
it
exactly it.
definitely has its benefits.
So back to what Price was saying, like the long-term benefits, more money is always good, but it's kind of what we do with that money that I think will count long-term. And people, I mean, I've got a very long-term view of esports, but not everyone's thinking the same way. And my view is always about improving our brand and our players, for the long term. And that involves like investing money into boot camps and investing money into facilities and, any kind of opportunities that they can get to get recognition on an international scale is always going to be amazing. And the more frequently and the more people that see it that way, we'll see that coming back into more viewership for Aussie streamers down here. More local support is a really big thing in my opinion that we need to help push along. So what I mean by that is local fans. If you're an Aussie Fortnite player and you're a big Ninja fan or a Myth fan, you should also get to know the local scene and be like a Volks fan, be a Geese fan, be a Price fan, be whoever it is. You've got to also back your local scene as well as the international guys. And spend money, buy the merch, sub to their streams. Like if you've got it available, don't just like throw an extra $5 into Ninja's pocket. You got to kind of show some support for
Yeah, and
the scene
that
down here.
that goes back to another issue I was talking about before, is that Australia just doesn't have the infrastructure to support all of these amazing players, so they're kind of limited in how they can sort of help us grow in turn, which then puts a strain overall on how we go forward, But yeah, until Australia's infrastructure sort of gets updated a hell of a lot more, like to this century, we're still going to be on this sort of slow and steady increase instead of working to the end goal a lot quicker.
And players are always going to take every opportunity that they should to go overseas, and I'm 100% behind that. And I think most of them are very good when they do get overseas. That they know that they came from OCE and they're very loyal and passionate about their local scene because that's how they came up. So you look at all the players that are playing overseas right now in other games. I think that everyone, whenever they're on stream on an international stream, everyone knows them as an Aussie player, and that's really good for our region. And that's happened more and more frequently in the last year. Whereas like 2-3 years ago, there was maybe one player playing overseas or two in like the entire esports ecosystem, and now there's like more than I can think of. There's like probably 20, maybe
PUBG's
more.
perfect for that. There's Extreme, Linksy, they're all playing for an A team, doing quite well, mind you.
Let's just try and name every Australian or New Zealand player that's playing overseas, in the
Well, I
in the
mean, you
major
don't even need
leagues.
to. Can you class just overseas orgs like Renegades?
No,
They
of
got the
course, yeah,
XT
everything.
Twins,
If
and then
you're
they got R6.
yeah, Rainbow Six, you've got Renegades CS, there's Overwatch, there's Trill,
Yeah, a
there's
lot of the Sydney
Custer,
drop-in
there's
players have been
Gumba.
sent over.
Yeah, there's more Overwatch players that have now gone over into the second division from Drop Bears. Yeah, you've got the Rainbow Six team, like you said, Braden.
Yeah, Fnatic.
To see this like what we're talking about now also leads to the bigger concerns for us here at home, is that we're now starting to see Australia. Well, I can't say New Zealand because we're limited to our internet, which is now seeing us limited to what technologies are available to us. So what's to say in the next 6 months, all these new computer parts, all this new gear that's coming out in order to, keep up with the best that are competing in NA EU, how are we going to facilitate our players? How are we going to be able to keep up when we're already seeing we're limited on mobile phones? And who doesn't want to have the best mobile phone out there when they're getting a new plan? You know what I mean?
I think like time and time again, this region has shown that we can produce world-class players, even though we're a very small ecosystem, and we do punch above our weight, population-wise. We're a region of 24 million or so, if you include New Zealand, maybe a bit more. And going up against like NA, who's got over 250 million, and we can still get like the Renegade CS team being top 4 in the world or top 5 in the world, and we can still get an Australian player winning the Dota 2 International with his team. We can still get a lot of Australian players in the Overwatch League. Like, we've shown that we can do it. It's just how do we also translate that back to local success, and make our scene like more competitive and inspire more younger players to want to get involved in it. Yeah, so that's kind of something that I think about a lot, is that if you're a young player, you always look up to the streamers. You always want to go on Twitch and see who the big players are, and they're always from overseas. They're always from NA or EU, and then you become their fans, and you kind of don't even really think about what's happening back home. So I think that for me, a key part of the next few years for orgs is going to be how to engage and with local fans and turn them into fans of our region and being really passionate about OCE. And now that we've got players that do well in international tournaments, I think that's a lot easier. Where in the past, when you have Aussie players going over and they just kind of lose, they're not even competitive. It's hard to get behind that because they don't have a chance. But nowadays, I think it's much more common that they'll make the semis, or they'll Paladins is another good example with Kanga's team. They're top 3 team in the world, so it's a lot easier in 2019 to get behind an Aussie player that's playing overseas. Um,
Yeah, and we're starting to see that we're getting, those fans from other countries backing Australian orgs.
100%.
Just from the presence that we're having on that international stage. Ever since ESL sort of made its landmark in Sydney, it's sort of just boomed from there in the CS community. I mean, you look at Dick Stacey. He doesn't even need to win a game, and he's still got everyone chanting and backing him just because his name's Dick Stacey. When he was trying to get his Dick Stacey sticker out for in game, like that was the most hilarious thing that was going around. And even then, they performed well, but not well enough to win it. But he still got all of these fans. So
Yeah, 100%. There's one other thing that I wanted to ask Ozzy, specifically, while we talk about like ways that we can improve our scene locally, and what's your opinion on importing players from overseas into Australia? Because I think there's opportunities there for growth.
Depends.
So for CS, I'll just pitch you an idea. We know that all the top CS teams are all on pretty decent salaries. So, and I think, quote me if I'm wrong, but IGLs in this country are a big issue where there's not a lot of top tier IGLs and coaching staff. So let's say that I'm ground zero and I have a budget and I'm missing an IGL. Why don't I just go to a tier 2 European team, someone who's not on salary but who has a great potential, and just say, look, come to Australia, have a great holiday, spend a year here, we'll pay you salary. They have a great holiday in Australia, and you can become a great team, and also you can get audience from Europe who's like, this has never happened before. So, you'll get fans from Europe tuning in to your matches because it's their mate that's playing, and you might qualify for some extra stuff. What's your opinion on doing that?
My example would be sorry, you can hear my keyboard there. I'm going to bring up the last Splice CSGO roster.
Oh, yeah, that was all international, wasn't it?
Yep. So, sorry, not their last, but their last decent roster, I should say. They had I'm trying to remember. They had Machine Gun, who was Mongolian, Crucial, who I believe is from the Netherlands, Asilian, who was Danish. I think they might have still had Davey, who's Canadian. I believe one other international player, or it might have still been an American Canadian player. Splice shot himself in the foot. In my opinion, it might be worthwhile in another in another game, like maybe it could be worthwhile in League. In my opinion, the ecosystem regarding CS in Australia, it's not worth it. So, for example, you have his name's David, coach for Avant. He's a previous NA player. So he was priced at the coach of Order/Kings.
Yeah.
So, yep. And I'll be honest, David's a nice guy. He's smart. He knows the game. Compared to NA, I hate to use the term, but he's irrelevant. It's the same with, there is currently a dude going around now who's German. In the scene, he's looking for coaching positions. Can't remember his name. He coached Astral, I think, from memory. Or the ex-Mprox lineup, their last CSGO lineup they had. And yet again, he brings in this whole, I'm from Europe, I know more. But he doesn't.
Do you think it's possible to find the right person that could help out? Or do you think that it's like the Australian culture is so different that one person wouldn't be able to integrate?
Australian CSGO shoots itself in the foot every day. If you look at how the European teams, your top NA teams are playing, they they're not perfect. No one's perfect at a game except for Australis. And these teams have a balance. They have their own schedule. They're on a salary. They don't have other external worries. ANZ CSGO shoots itself in the foot by not wanting to have that control. We don't have the sort of people, we don't have the players that, yeah, they may want these awesome salaries. As the quote, I think it was Liaz who said it, when renegades come knocking at your door as an Australian, it's hard to say no. And obviously that could be argued. I believe renegades, I think they tried buying Mindfreak's COD roster at some point, and that came out. But yeah, we just don't have the player. We don't have the set mind to improve like these international teams do. And these international names, it would have to be insane. Yeah, a tier 2 player wouldn't improve the scene.
Yeah, and a tier 1 player is probably out of
question,
yeah,
way out of question. Like, for example, Carrigan, while he was LFT after being kicked out of FaZe, if ANZ was able to bring him over, that would be insane. We would be on HLTV, the front page of Reddit, for 2 or 3 days, and then it'll be forgotten about. When the first NA teams were picking up EU players as their 4th or 5th, it was insane news. This didn't happen before. It was on the front page of HLTV. It was on Reddit for a few days. Then they played the matches. It wasn't that good, like it happens with every team when they get a new player, and no one cared. I don't believe a single player, a single personality can change the whole scene. But in my opinion, the scene shoots itself in the foot. You can look over, for example, your top NA talent, your top EU talent. They do not care what map they play. Yeah, they have the map that they hate. Famously, Navi never plays Cash. This is getting into the specifics of Counter-Strike itself as a title. But AU, we are not a region. Like, I am honestly surprised in the fact that Greyhounds were able to go to the major. Honestly surprised by that, mainly because AU teams don't prepare themselves. Like, as I said, EU and NA talent literally play every map. When I was going over the statistics of how much AU has changed, over our last 5 major tournaments in ANZ, with made up of only Australian New Zealand teams, our top 3 maps halfway through last year were Mirage, Inferno, and Cash. The most played, literally every other map was 5% or less time played. And then now we've come to a point where the Cash is just being changed for Overpass while we're still playing Mirage and Inferno. That's getting into the specifics of it. But at the end of the day, we are literally eliminating ourselves. We are not preparing for over half of the game that these people play every day. There are 7 maps to learn in the competitive playing pool, and they are choosing to only play 3 of them. If a full-time coach did come in, or a new player did come in, who was able to reshape a team to then conquer the region, that would be huge. It would be huge for a team like Atletico.
Yeah, coaching could be some good opportunities there.
However, in my opinion, I don't think it would be worthwhile. I don't think it would be worth the money. I don't think it's even really possible unless you're sending the team overseas. It comes down to the whole, we are so limited in ANZ, and it is so true.
Yeah, probably a better option is just sending people over.
And as I was saying with David, honestly, if you are from overseas and you are choosing to coach an AU team, that you're basically kissing your career goodbye, because that's the last step. Unless that team that you're now coaching somehow becomes the next AU number 1 and you go overseas for MDL and end up beating the likes of Optic Gaming or ENTS, But that's a lot of ifs. A lot of ifs. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worthwhile. I really don't think it's worthwhile.
Fair
Especially
Wasn't there a
game
team that imported a player in Rainbow
Yeah, and
and that completely failed or something, wasn't it?
Was it Corvidae?
oh
I
yeah,
can't
it was
remember.
Corvidae, yeah. I'm also pretty sure that Tainted Minds imported some NA players for League back when they were in League.
For the scandals.
Or it happened at the
Oh.
same time. It was the NA players. Remember because
Oh yeah, that's
because it was
right.
too
yeah.
it was too hot, and the NA players like it was too hot, and there was no air conditioning, and that's the whole
Mm.
when the whole scandal happened, and it was I forget their names, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was two NA players. Yeah, okay, cool, interesting points. I think we should probably wrap it up there. It's been 2 hours. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in again, and thanks to my guests, Ozzy and Choose, for your valuable insights. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully, everyone got a lot out of it. But if you want to chat more, you can check out our Discord, discord.gg/jam, and come meet us, chat there. Anything you guys want to say before we finish up, Ozzy?
None at all, actually. Pretty happy to be on the show again. Thank you for that.
No, you're welcome.
Always love being a little bit nerdy when it comes to esports.
Yeah, I like the chats too. Braden?
No, I'm pretty good. It was a good night. Good topics. Good discussion.
Yeah, awesome. The VOD will be posted on YouTube, guys, if you missed any, or if you want to link it to any of your mates. Make sure you follow these boys on Twitter, and I'm just going to throw the host across to one of our affiliates, Leash, who she's got a very good stream. She's been with Jam for a couple of months now, so she deserves some love. So make sure you guys show her some love, and we will be back next week for some more stuff. So. Peace out, guys.
Cheers.
See ya.